I'm Lisa Bradshaw. Thanks for joining the show today. Like a lot of the ideas I have for the show come from things I see on social media. And recently I saw my Facebook friend, Jenn Thomason, post about a movie called Foster. And I asked her if she'd come on the show today and talk about foster care in our community, what the needs are for our community and how those are being met and what isn't being met and what we can do to help. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. You're welcome here anytime there's something like this
Thanks.
going on. So,
Thank you.
So I have some friends who are foster parents, and they say great things about you.
Oh, thank you.
You've been doing this a long time.
Yes. I've been working in child welfare probably since my early 20s, and I've been working for the department here, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families for about a little over 12 years.
So it's a pretty grueling job, I'd imagine. Some wins and some losses.
Yeah, there's good, there's the good and there's the bad. But
just like with any job,
yeah.
I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's about children, it's a little bit
Yes.
harder.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about the good. Let's talk about the things that you've seen over the years and in what ways that our communities are able to help, your department specifically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen a lot of amazing reunifications. I think a lot of times people when you think of fostering, you think of terrible parents and abuse, but most of our cases are neglect cases due to substance abuse or mental health issues. And with the assistance of our workers and the community and our community providers, we see huge changes, and then kids are able to go home, and that's our ultimate goal, is for kids to go home and be in a healthy family with their biological family.
And so when you have a child, tell us the process of just how a child enters the system. I know it varies, but
Yeah.
in general.
In general, you would get, there has to be a pickup order either by law enforcement or signed by a judge or commissioner when there is an active safety threat, meaning something that is a safety threat that could affect the child's life now, like not something that can wait. So we take action there, and then we file for a dependency petition, and then from there, once we have the pickup order, it goes to the dependency petition, then there's some court proceedings, but we get either law enforcement is calling us to come pick up a child, or else we're getting that signed document, and then CPS would be the one to pick up the child. And then sometimes we have the luxury of having a placement before we even have the children in our care. So either a relative has come forward or we've already identified a foster home. Then other times we do end up with kids in our office waiting while we're trying to locate a relative or a foster home.
Now, I want to circle back to that here in a bit, because I know that you need volunteers for that process as
Mm-hmm.
well. So tell me then, is there ever the case when a parent will say, I'm not capable right now, or is it usually a fight to get a parent to admit that, or have someone else make you aware of their shortcomings?
It's usually coming in either, like I said, law enforcement, like there's been a drug raid, or there's been an intake. So that's probably the number one way is someone's calling intake, our central intake, and saying, I have concerns, and then it screens in or doesn't screen in. If it does screen in, then our CPS start investigating and seeing where we're at as to if there's an active safety threat at that time.
So maybe sometimes it takes that whole process for a parent to wake up
Mm-hmm.
and realize that, their child is in danger, and they're in danger of losing the child.
Yeah, my current position right now, I facilitate family team decision-making meetings, and those meetings are when we have kids where we're thinking of maybe having kids going into out-of-home care, so when there's an imminent risk. So, and then we talk with the families and everybody and try to come to a decision together, or else when there's a move. So I always say in those meetings, this could be a blessing in disguise. And then by the end of the time we're working with this family, most of them do see it as a blessing in disguise. I have letters from parents saying, you saved our life. Like, you saved my life. I needed this. So sometimes that's the way I look at it when it's really hard, and I'm like, oh, this is heart-wrenching. I'm like, you know what? This could be what makes this family be able to move forward and be everything
And
they
even
can
if
be.
they don't reunify, then at least it gives the child or children a chance, right, at a better life, a safer life.
Exactly.
An opportunity for that. You were talking about how you take the children in, and sometimes they're in your office. I know that there's a whole need for volunteers just for that part of it, so that you can do your job. You need somebody there to kind of help you navigate or help with the child that's waiting.
Right. So I think it was almost 3 years ago, or over 3 years ago, I started the Office Moms and Dads program here in Wenatchee at our Wenatchee office. And basically that's when we have a volunteer, any community member that can pass a background check and do some of our training, come in and hang out with the kids. So feed them, play board games, anything to kind of distract them from what's going on. And it's been an awesome program, and we are always looking for volunteers. I'm no longer running that program, but if you look up Office Moms and Dads on Facebook, they have a page and it can put you through to who to talk to.
That's amazing. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a bit about this movie, Foster. I also want to talk more about what is happening in our community, what the needs are for the children that you take in. I know a lot of the needs are met, but some are not, so let's find out what our community can do to help.
Okay, thank you.
Back in just a moment. Hi, we're back. Thanks for joining us today. We've been talking with Jenn Thomason. She is a social worker here in our community. We're talking about the screening of a movie called Foster that's going to happen at Wenatchee High School Auditorium from 6 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 16th. We're giving you a heads up about it so you can hopefully attend. It's free, and with a donation, there's some snacks and beverages available. But we wanted to talk, we spent the first segment talking a bit about just what it's like to take a child in to your care. The volunteers you need sometimes when a child can't be placed right away and they're waiting literally in your office and need some entertainment. So if you're interested in being a volunteer, there's a Facebook page for
Office Moms and Dads.
Office Moms
and you
and
can
Dads.
also just call our office and they can put you through. And our number is 509-665-5300.
5300. We'll make sure we add that in. So let's talk about the movie Foster. It's a documentary owned by HBO. I haven't seen it. You have.
Yes.
So I am going to watch it. Tell me a bit about it. Obviously, we don't want to give everything away, but it's a documentary, so probably not too many surprises, but hopefully an education.
So I really like this documentary. There's a lot of different documentaries out there about the system. I really enjoyed this one because it shows a lot of the positive and reality. It's not just trying to find that sad story. It's talking about all the different aspects. So it includes, it's not just a story about one kid and one foster parent. They're talking about different situations. So there's a child that's going through the juvenile justice system. There's one that's getting adopted. There's, it just really covers all the different aspects with social workers, guardian ad litem or CASAs. Just kind of gives a different perspective of all the different aspects of it, because there's such a vast
It's a big
world.
puzzle.
Yeah, it is. It's a beast. There's so many, it takes a village, right? So that's kind of what it's talking about, and I just think it really gives a good insight, and I wanted to open it up to the community so people can kind of get a better idea, because there's always that stigma of the foster child, which I don't even like using that word foster kid, because they're a kid that's in out-of-home care.
Right.
Because it's not their identity. It's a situation that they're in by no fault of their own. So I think it just really can broaden people's horizons and let them know, this is everywhere. It's all around us. People don't see it because people won't talk about it. So I hope that it can enlighten some people.
I have firsthand experience with foster care. My parents took in my babysitter when I was 6-ish years old, and she's 8 years older than me, so she was about 14. And she only lived with us less than 6 months probably. And it was very difficult for our family because for a teenager coming into our home, and she had 6 other siblings and not any supervision whatsoever. And my parents were kind of rules and all. I'm sure that this is a story you hear a lot. But she is still in my life in a big, huge way. She is my sister. She's always been my sister. She has been there for me through the darkest times in my life and the happiest times in my life. And that's something that I think that I hope people understand, is that sibling. I never had a sister. Now I do, and I wouldn't have had one had it not been for her until I later married and have sister-in-laws. But I think too that sibling, that relationship that the other children in the home can offer is really something.
It
You
really
see a lot
is.
of that. You see a lot of children staying in touch with each other
Oh,
even
yeah.
after they're not living in the same home anymore?
And they do call each other sister or my brother, even though they're not biologically related, or even though it was a short time in their life. Those short times mean so much. And I think that's another thing about the foster world that people don't understand. Even if a kid's in your home for 5 days, that 5 days, even one day, one night, can make such a huge difference, and they don't realize that. But those kids don't forget. They don't forget the kindness. They don't forget the acceptance and safety that was offered to them. And I think that's a good example for the kid, like biological kids or adopted kids in the home too, to see how to teach that kind of compassion and nurturing.
It's like the teacher that you never forget, right?
Yeah.
So what about, let's talk a little bit about how you talked about the stigma of the foster kid and how you don't even really like to use that word, and I understand what you mean by that. But what about the bad rap that some of the not so great foster parents give to the rest of the people who are they're doing it out of the kindness? They're not collecting a check, all those things that we hear.
Right.
How do you try to overcome that?
Well, I think that could be said with all the different areas of child welfare. You hear the horror stories of bad social workers, bad foster parents, or bad foster kids.
Right.
But really, that's few and far between, in my opinion, especially in this community.
And you've been doing it a long time, so you're kind of the authority on it, right?
We have amazing foster parents in this community, but to some kids, or there might be a parent that they're mad their child was taken, so they're gonna say that, oh, this was horrible, or a kid, kids want to be with their parents no matter what the situation. They may say something.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I've experienced that in my circle of friends who, even sometimes when you're dealing with a healthy home life, if there's stepchildren or stepmother and father, it's just they're always going to want that. And hopefully they can have it all.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can have it all. So when you start to think about what the needs are in our community and how they're being met or unmet, do you think that this film is an education in our community? Is it universal?
I think it's universal. It is, because everywhere has kids that are in out-of-home care. And I think it really can educate and inspire, whether it brings in more foster parents or just even teachers, nurses. Like, there are so many people that are involved in these kids' lives and these parents' lives and these foster parents' lives. It really is a huge community. So I hope that more people come so they can understand the process more and be inspired to, and understand that even that one doctor's appointment that they had with this nurse, that may have made a huge difference in their life. So just to spread that.
I think it's good for kids to get to see what healthy family interaction looks like, what it looks like to sit down at home and do your homework at the end of the day, and hopefully sit down for a meal with your family, even if it's your family for only, like you said, a few days or a few months, or this new family for your whole life.
Yeah, it's funny when we have some teenagers that come in to care that have had no supervision. They get to do whatever they want. And a lot of the foster parents or social workers, whoever they're working with, are going to be like, oh, this is going to be so hard because they're not going to be able to have their cell phone. They're going to have rules. Some of those kids want that so bad because they've never had it. And they may push back at first, but
they need the structure. They
are loving it.
They need the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I think they need to be told and have somebody listen. I was not a big negotiating parent, and I think it served us well. I mean, we just kind of knew what was allowed and what wasn't, and I wasn't a perfect parent by any means, but he knew what I meant when I said it, and I think that you see that in society in general, whether it's in foster care or children who are born to us that we raise their whole lives. But I do think that in some situations it does take a village, and most definitely the programs in place here in our community. Let's take a break and then talk about what needs are being met and what still need to be met. The movie is called Foster. It will air at Wenatchee High School Auditorium from 6 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 16th. and snacks and beverages with your donation. But the movie is free admission. So we'll come back in just a moment and talk more with Jennifer. Hi, I'm Lisa Bradshaw. Thanks for tuning in today. We've been talking about a movie that will air at Wenatchee High School called Foster. Every Child Needs a Family, and it will air on Thursday, January 16th at Wenatchee High School from 6 to 8 p.m. It is free admission. With the donation, you get some snacks and beverages. We're here talking with Jennifer Thomason. She's a social worker in our community, and she's enlightening us about the term foster and what that means and the stigma attached to it, but also the good things that come from the fostering that happens right here in our Wenatchee Valley. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
So we talked about the film and how it's universal and it can give an education to people who don't necessarily understand the foster system and how it works. A lot of people think if they can't be a foster parent, they can't help foster kids or the foster system, as you call it, the system. So what needs do you see that are met in our community, and where is there still a lacking?
So I got to brag on our community a bit. I have never been anywhere or experienced the outpouring of donations and care surrounding this foster community that I have here. It's been amazing. It's been growing in the past few years. So we have, it's just kind of like exploded. So now we have the Office Moms and Dads program that I was talking about before. We have the Hope Chest, which is a clothing closet for foster families, so they can come in and shop, and it's ran by volunteers.
It's free to them.
Yeah, it's free. They can come in and grab whatever they want. It's gently used, donated clothing. That's been amazing. Sage Hills Church has a ministry called Restore. They do welcome bags and stuff for new foster parents, or some foster families are struggling or have a new placement. They'll do meals, and birthday boxes. So we have that going. And we also have a community group now that is putting on events, and they're called NCW Friends of Foster Family. I call them FOF, and they put on events for foster families. Like they did a movie event, so free movie with snacks and everything, and the Santa photos. We did that in late October. They do a summer bash. They help with our foster parent appreciation dinner in May. So it's been amazing, and that's just some of the
things off the top of your head. So those are the things that people in our community can still be involved in. So obviously they could donate clothing to the Hope Chest. They could perhaps donate items for the birthday boxes, things like that. Yeah,
that would be through the Restore Ministry, and then through the NCW Friends of Foster Family. They're always looking for sponsors to fund the events that they're putting on. So there is a Facebook page for that too. I think it's NCW Friends of Foster Family.
Okay, and we talked earlier in the show about the moms and dads. What is the name?
Office Moms and Dads.
Office Moms and Dads, which you'd started about 3 years ago. You're not in charge of anymore. There's a Facebook page for that as well, and you can go and take a look and see what is required in order to be a volunteer. That's for when kids are brought in and they aren't placed right away, and they're hanging out in your office all day, and they need some entertainment and supervision, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Because you take in all ages. So, so then let's talk about then what this community still could, how we could rise a bit and fill some needs that aren't being met.
So I think the number one thing is always going to be a lack of foster homes. We just need more, and we need more diverse foster homes. We have fabulous foster homes, but they get filled. And then we're left with no homes. We've had kids living in hotels, and that's never happened here before. But
Meaning living in hotels, then who's supervising?
Staff, social workers.
Oh, wow.
So it's usually teenagers because there's just no beds available for them at that time. Spokane has really high numbers in hotels, and we've felt it here.
That.
It's
for the first time. When did that start happening?
This past year has been the year that I saw it.
Is it more kids in need of foster care, or is it less foster parents, or is it a combination of both?
It's combination of both. There's not enough foster homes to meet the needs of the kids coming into care. And a lot of the foster parents come in because they're wanting to adopt, so they are very interested in babies. And then that kind of leaves the older kids not having a lot of options. Teen girls, teen boys, that is an age that we're really struggling to find homes for. Kids that are LGBTQ, we are struggling to find homes for because we need some accepting, loving homes. And sibling groups, because we do not like to split siblings, but let's say you're a foster home and you're licensed for 2 and you already have 1, you only have room for 1 left. Like, you can't take in a sibling group of 3. So then we end up splitting them up. And that's adding to the trauma. We don't want to do that, but sometimes there's no choice.
Yeah, my sister that I told you about, there were 7 kids, and they pretty much all went somewhere different.
Yeah.
Luckily, these siblings are pretty tight. You know, all 7 of them, all these years later. They've been through hard times over the years, as a lot of families do. A lot of families go through that, and I think it's made their sibling relationship stronger.
Oh, I bet.
And they did reunite with their mom, so that's always a good thing too.
Yeah.
So then, when you talk about foster care and they're qualified, what was the term you used to have 1 or 2?
Like if they're licensed.
Yes, so they're licensed for a certain number of kids. And for people who don't know what it is required to be a foster parent, it's quite a process. You're going to take children into your home, so they need to be safe and they need to prove that safety.
Right.
But how do you determine how many can live there? Is it space? What is that determination, and what do people have to do in order to become a foster parent?
So it is based on space and capacity, and that I don't know the square footage and stuff.
Sure.
That's a licensor does that stuff. So you first have to do some classes, background check, fingerprints. You do a home study, so you meet with a licensor and talk about your background and the other kids in your home, what you're looking for in your fostering experience. And so there are steps that you have to take. There's a medical that you need to do. And then from there, and you get to decide. It's up to you as to the age and
The foster parent.
Yeah, and the gender or whatever you're open to. Some are only open to babies. Some are open to 0 to 18. I like those ones.
Those are the ones that it all works out, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's good information. So if someone wants to get in touch with you or in touch with your department, we just have a minute left. Where would they reach out?
You can always give me a call. Or you could just call our front office and they could put you through to the licensor. So that number again is 509-665-5300, and that'll put you in touch with our Wenatchee office that covers Chelan Douglas County.
Well, again, the movie is called Foster, and it will air at Wenatchee High School Auditorium on Thursday, January 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. It's free admission. It's an education in how the foster system works, and a lot of stories that maybe you don't realize happen in foster care. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank
Just
you.
let me know whenever you want to come on and
Awesome.
share good information about the foster care system in our community. Thanks.
Thank you so much.